The morning air at Fort Greystone cut like glass. Cold seeped through everything, through gloves, through uniforms, through pride. The kind of cold that didn't just numb fingers but exposed weaknesses. Cadets stood in formation, boots aligned, breaths fogging in perfect rhythm. All except one that her boots were broken. Not cracked, broken. The sole of her right boot had split near the heel, the rubber peeled away like old bark. Duct tape wrapped it twice, uneven and fraying, doing its best to hold together something that had already given up. Mud clung to the tape. Dried blood stained the edge, and the cadets noticed, they always did. "Hey," someone whispered from the second row. "Did she rob a dumpster on the way here?" Snickers rippled quietly. Another voice followed. "Those boots violate at least 12 regulations." A third muttered, louder this time. "She probably couldn't afford real ones." The woman wearing them didn't react. Cadet Mara Hale stared straight ahead, jaw set, shoulders squared, eyes forward like stone. Her uniform was clean, pressed, every insignia placed perfectly. Only the boots betrayed her, and everyone knew it. Sergeant Major Cole Whitaker hadn't arrived yet, but his presence already hung heavy in the air. He was the kind of man whose reputation arrived 10 minutes before he did. 32 years of service. Combat deployments that were whispered about, not discussed. A man known for breaking arrogance without raising his voice. Today was inspection day. The cadets straightened further as footsteps echoed across concrete. Whitaker entered the yard. Silence snapped into place that he moved slowly down the line, eyes sharp, nothing escaping him. He corrected a crooked collar here, flicked lint from a shoulder there. When he stopped, it was deliberate. He stopped in front of Mara. His gaze dropped to the boots, the duct tape, the mud, the blood. Several cadets held their breath, almost excited. They expected it, a public correction, maybe even humiliation. Broken gear was unacceptable. Everyone knew that. Whitaker said nothing. He studied the boots for a long moment, then lifted his eyes to her face. "Cadet," he said evenly, "why are your boots in that condition?" Her voice came steady. "Sir, damage sustained during field exercise. Replacement request submitted." "Denied." A pause. Whitaker nodded once. "Denied why?" "Supply shortage, sir." The cadets exchanged glances. Someone smirked that Whitaker's eyes narrowed just slightly. "Dog tag," he said. Mara blinked once, then reached up, pulling the chain from beneath her uniform. The metal tag caught the light as she placed it in his palm. The sergeant major froze, not visibly, not dramatically, just enough that a man who knew soldiers could see it. His thumb traced the stamped letters. Then he read the name. The yard felt suddenly smaller. Whitaker inhaled slowly. "Formation," he barked. Everyone snapped straighter, eyes forward. He turned back to Mara, voice lower now. "Cadet Hale, you didn't mention." She swallowed. "Didn't think it mattered, sir." Whitaker closed his fist around the dog tag for a moment before handing it back. "It matters," he said quietly. The cadets were confused now. The teasing energy drained, replaced by uncertainty. Whitaker stepped back. "Carry on," he ordered, but his eyes followed her as he moved down the line, because he knew that name. And so did history at Mara's day didn't get easier. During obstacle training, the broken boots slipped on the wall climb. She barely caught the rope, palms tearing, muscles screaming. No one helped. No one was supposed to. Weakness was not tolerated. "Move faster," an instructor shouted. She did. During the ruck march, the tape loosened. Gravel dug into her heel with every step. She adjusted her gait without slowing, paying a quiet companion she'd learned to live with long before she ever put on a uniform. Behind her, whispers continued. "She's gonna wash out. Probably here for sympathy points. She doesn't belong." Mara didn't respond. She never did. Because this wasn't the hardest place she'd ever stood. Not even close. That night, the cadets crowded the barracks, laughter bouncing off concrete walls. Stories were exchanged, bravado polished, futures imagined. Mara sat on her bunk, rewrapping the boot with fresh tape. Across the room, a cadet named Jensen watched her. "You know," he said, loud enough for others to hear, "they sell boots at the PX." She looked up. "I know. So why don't you buy some?" "Because," she replied calmly, These still work. Laughter erupted. Jensen smirked. Guess standards are optional now. She met his gaze. Guess pain tolerance is. That shut him up, but only briefly. The next morning, Whitaker called a closed-door meeting. Instructor stood rigid as he entered, face unreadable. Which one of you denied a replacement boot request for Cadet Hale? He asked as a supply officer cleared his throat. Sir, inventory was low. Whitaker cut him off. Do you know whose daughter that is? Silence. Whitaker leaned forward, hands on the table. That name on her dog tag? He said quietly. That's Captain Elias Hale's blood. Several faces changed. He walked point through Fallujah, so half this room could go home. Whitaker continued. He bled out in a sandstorm with no evac because he refused to leave his team. The room was silent. And his daughter is out there, Whitaker said, with a broken boot and more discipline than every cadet laughing at her. He straightened. You denied her request, he said coldly. You'll fix that. Today. Back on the yard, Mara stood alone, staring at the flagpole as it caught the morning light. Whitaker approached her quietly. You carry his name well, he said. She didn't look at him. I just carry it, sir. He nodded. You won't have broken boots much longer. She finally turned. Sir. Whitaker allowed himself the smallest smile. Some legacies don't get discarded. That afternoon, the cadets noticed something had shifted. Orders came faster. Corrections sharper. Standards higher. And when Whitaker stopped the entire formation and looked directly at them, his voice carried like steel. Respect isn't given because someone looks strong, he said. It's earned by those who endure when no one is watching. His eyes flicked to Mara. Remember that. As the sun set, Mara sat outside the barracks, retaping her boot one last time. She didn't know yet that tomorrow would change everything. She didn't know that the name on her dog tag would soon be spoken aloud, in front of everyone. And she didn't know that the same cadets who laughed would soon stand in silence. If you're watching this story on YouTube, this is from the channel Her Brave Stripes. Subscribe for more powerful military stories that honor strength, sacrifice, and silent courage, and tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? Morning formation came before sunrise. The cold was sharper than the day before, the kind that crept into bones and refused to leave. Frost clung to the edges of the parade ground, crunching softly under boots as cadets took their places. The flagpole stood dark and still, waiting. Mara Hale stepped into line. Her boots were still broken, but something had changed. The whispers were gone. Not because the cadets had grown kinder overnight, but because Sergeant Major Whitaker stood at the center of the yard, hands clasped behind his back, eyes scanning faces like he was memorizing every flaw. Today, he said, voice calm but carrying, we're doing things a little differently. Instructors shifted. Cadets stiffened. Whitaker walked slowly along the front rank until he stopped. Right in front of Mara. Cadet Hale, he said. Yes, sir. Step forward. Every eye locked onto her. She took one step, then another. Her broken boot made a faint, uneven sound against the concrete. It echoed louder than it should have. Whitaker turned to face the formation. Some of you, he said, have been laughing. No one moved. Some of you, he continued, have been whispering. Silence pressed down hard. And some of you, Whitaker said, his tone sharpening, have mistaken comfort for competence. He turned back to Mara. Cadet Hale, he said, how long have you been wearing those boots? She answered without hesitation. 6 weeks, sir. A murmur rippled through the ranks. Whitaker raised a hand. Silence snapped back. Why? Because they still hold together, sir. Whitaker nodded. Where did they break? Night movement drill. I was carrying a litter. Whitaker's jaw tightened. How heavy? 200 pounds, sir. Prugia. Several cadets swallowed. Whitaker turned again. Who here complained about sore feet last week? He asked. N01 answered. Who here requested lighter packs? Still nothing. Who here laughed at duct tape instead of asking why it was needed? No one spoke. Whitaker's voice dropped. That duct tape, he said, is the sound of someone refusing to quit. He looked straight at Jensen. Cadet Jensen. Jensen flinched. Sir, you had something to say about standards. Yes, sir. Jensen said weakly. Whitaker nodded once. Good. You'll be running point today. Jensen blinked. Sir, with Cadet Hale's pack. A collective inhale swept the formation. Whitaker turned back to Mara. You'll carry mine, he said. Her eyes widened for half a second. Sir, that's an order. Yes, sir. The march started brutal point 20 miles. Full combat load. Uneven terrain. By mile 3. Jensen was already struggling. Sweat soaked through his uniform despite the cold. His breathing came sharp and uneven. Mara walked steadily ahead, Sergeant Major's pack on her shoulders, posture unchanged. Her broken boot slipped once. She corrected instantly. Whitaker walked beside her. You ever think of quitting? He asked quietly. No, sir. Why not? She thought for a moment. Because quitting would be louder than pain. Whitaker nodded slowly. By mile 8, Jensen stumbled. He caught himself, barely. Mara slowed. Not stopping, just adjusting pace. Whitaker noticed. You don't have to wait, he said. I know, she replied. But he'll finish. By mile 12, Jensen collapsed to one knee. Whitaker stopped the entire formation. On your feet, he ordered. Jensen shook his head. Sir, I can't. Whitaker turned to Mara. Cadet Hale, he said. What would you do? She stepped back. Without a word, she shifted the Sergeant Major's pack, reached down, and took Jensen's pack on her front, doubling her load. Gasps broke out. Her boots scraped the ground as she stood upright under the weight. I'd finished the mission, she said. Whitaker held her gaze for a long moment. Then he turned to Jensen. Watch, he said. They finished, all of them. When the formation finally halted, bodies shook with exhaustion. Cadets leaned on their knees, heads down, pride stripped raw. Mara stood straight. Her boot had finally given out. The sole hung loose, flapping uselessly. Whitaker stepped forward. Formation, he barked. Everyone snapped upright. Eyes on Cadet Hale. They obeyed. She didn't ask for help, Whitaker said. She didn't ask for sympathy. She didn't ask for special treatment. He paused. She earned respect without demanding it. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a new pair of boots. Regulation. Perfect. These were ordered the moment I saw your request denied, he said, handing them to her. But you won't wear them today. Confusion spread. You'll wear them, he continued, after everyone here understands what they represent. He turned to the formation. Cadet Hale's father died on a night patrol so his team could live, Whitaker said. She didn't trade on that name. She carried it quietly. He looked directly at the cadets who had laughed. Every one of you owes her an apology, he said. Not with words. He pointed to the ground. You'll run. They ran until legs burned and lungs screamed. Mara sat on a bench, boots off, socks soaked with blood. Whitaker stood beside her. You did good, he said. She shook her head. Just did the work, sir. He smiled. That's what makes it matter. As the sun dipped low, the cadets finished their punishment run. One by one, they approached her in jokes and smirks, just nods. Jensen stopped last. I was wrong, he said quietly. About everything. Mara nodded. Learn from it. He did. They all did. Graduation day came months later. Mara stood in formation, boots shining, posture flawless. When her name was called, the applause was louder than anyone expected. Whitaker watched from the side, but he touched the dog tag in his pocket, the one she had let him read that first day. Legacy wasn't about names, that IT was about endurance. If you're watching this story on YouTube, this is from the channel Her Brave Stripes. Subscribe for more powerful military stories about courage, sacrifice, and silent strength. And tell us in the comments, where are you watching from?